Hi everyone, welcome back to the Close Reader. It's been a minute. I know. I just checked on my channel. The last upload was 2 months ago. That's a long time. I mean, honestly, I am trying to get some stuff off the ground, so I have not been reading much for fun lately. It's like I've been reading stuff, but it's been more on the technical side. And then like the Middle East is kind of Middle Easting at the moment, so we are a little bit glued to our phones trying to understand what's going on. Honestly, I never much cared about the news around the Middle East so much because it seems like everybody is kind of in a stalemate, kind of in a gridlock, and like little skirmishes happen, but nothing really changes. I think things are changing. I think big things are changing, and it's been like so mind-blowing to witness, like, you know, have a first-person like point of view. As you might know, as I might have mentioned, I'm based in Istanbul, so it's like I'm not only like spiritually close, I'm like physically pretty close. Hopefully, knock on wood, Turkey doesn't get dragged into anything, but like. It's been so interesting to witness what do the analysts call like the establishing deterrence, or like the escalation ladder, like how different actors are like doing the tit for tat or choosing to escalate or de-escalate. And so far, like in the Middle East, so in the previous times, it was all de-escalation. Like it was always, skirmishes, but then like nothing happens, and then there's like some uneasy ceasefire until next round. But this time, like I'm seeing stuff like HSBC closing its areas, closing its banks in response to certain threats. Obviously, there's the Strait of Hormuz, the oil prices. Like this is. And compared to the previous kind of oil skirmishes and stuff, it's a different level. Like, I think big things are happening, big things are changing, and hopefully they will. This all will take place with the minimum amount of lives lost. Obviously, so many lives have been lost so far, and. If I talk too much about them, that's not the point of this channel. But it's big things are happening. And in this video, so previously in my previous video, if I actually like pull up my channel here, this you can see like we've done the chapter 10 from Past and Present, Book 2 of Thomas Carlyle. But I'm kind of thinking, I actually worked through chapter 11, I just haven't gotten around to recording it. But today I have some time and I wanted to read something a little bit different. And considering what's going on in the region, like I wanted to have a more of a historical perspective on the dynamics of the Middle East. So I found myself actually looking at a chapter by Edward Gibbons, the very famous The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, which is a book that Edward Gibbons has written, I think around the 1780s, between I think 1781 to 87. So Edward Gibbon was a British essayist who lived in the 1700s, historian and minor politician. And so this history of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire was very famous, always quoted, always cited. I was looking for some resources about Persia specifically, like, because, one of them, there's not much history to go on with the other actor, but Persia is a, multiple thousand-year civilization. So I thought I wanted to read, like, in some ways, like, I think we even share a border with them. We being Turkey, but like we're so close and yet so far, because when the Ottoman Empire was founded, declined, and the Turkish Republic was founded in 1923. One of the things that happened is our alphabets, which were up to that point the same, were severed. So we switched to the Latin alphabet. They remained on the Arabic Persian alphabet. And we had lots of words from Persian, lots of there's the Ottoman Turkish that today basically only lawyers and very specialized kind of professors of the literature in universities can understand. You need to it's almost another language. You need to dedicate time to learning it, and ordinary people do not understand that. But but that was the high culture language of the Ottoman Empire for centuries, right? So when the Turkish Republic was founded, so much of our history, of our common entanglements with Persia were severed from that point onward. And it's interesting how they're neighbors, but Turkey understands, for example, I think, the Balkans far more than they understand the East. And so I wanted to, and obviously another thing that may not be clear is we don't share a religion, not really. They are Shia Muslims, we are Sunni Muslims in Turkey, and there's I think a 10% Shia minority in Turkey, but they're they don't take up much space in the public sphere, I would say. So really, in many ways, they're alien to us. When some of the kind of cultural artifacts, some of the ways of thinking, they're just really alien to the Turkish, way of doing business and the Turkish style of politics that I've been used to. So I've been looking for some kind of reading that would give me a different perspective on the peoples of Persia. And I have found it in chapter 50 of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire by Edward Gibbon, where he talks about description of Arabia and its inhabitants, birth, character, and doctrine of Muhammad's. He preaches at Mecca, flies to Medina, flies means flees, propagates his religion by the sword, voluntary or reluctant submission of the Arabs, his death and successors, the claims and fortunes of Ali and his descendants. So this is a huge chapter. I actually tried to get, if you know on iOS, you can listen to the page. So I tried to do that just so as I was taking a walk, maybe I would get an overview. I don't know, the page looks relatively contained, but when you try to listen to it, it's 13 hours. So I did not listen to all of it, but I used AI to, I asked AI to compile for me stuff related to Persia from this chapter. So it should be regarding the location, the history of Persia, the beliefs of Persians, the Ali stuff that you probably see all over the place on the news, obviously with Iran being kind of in the spotlight at this time, and Ali and Hussein and stuff. So I asked AI to give me excerpts from this chapter 50, organize them in a logical way. And what it has done is it's come up with 11 chapter headings. The first, and let's go through them together. So one of them is it's all from the perspective of Persia, and what is emphasized in Persia is Ali and Hussein, and so we're going to talk about them. In fact, I'm not sure, I didn't write that here, but basically, Ali is the son-in-law of Prophet Muhammad. So Prophet Muhammad had multiple children, but the child we're focusing on right now is Fatima, a daughter who married Ali, who is also Prophet Muhammad's cousin. So there's two relationships there. But Ali was the first believer, Ali as the Prophet's brother. So brother meaning a spiritual brother in the faith. Ali the warrior, the Prophet and Persia, Fatima the best beloved daughter, the character of Ali, the usurpation of Ali's right, the schism, Persians and Turks interesting. It was a very interesting chapter for me. The reign of Ali, the death of Hussein. Hussein is Ali's son, one of Ali's sons, but the most famous son. The death of Hussein at Karbala. The 12 Imams. So you might hear in the news like Iran comes up all the time with the 12 verse. So those are the 12 Imams. And the Persian faith and the hidden Mahdi, etc. So AI took like this chapter 50 and took excerpts and organized it into these 11 chapters for us. And we are going to be reading through them. So this is like Gibbon on Persia, Ali and his descendants, excerpts from chapter 50 of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. And all of this here is like direct excerpts from Edward Gibbon. It's just like there are no chapter headings like this in Gibbon, obviously. These are the groupings, logical groupings that have been made via the assistance of AI. Before we go on, I also wanted to point out something interesting. So if you have not watched this video on my channel, which is the Millian Dialogues, one of the things you'll find there is that I had randomly, so this like, you can tell it's 3 months ago, right? It has nothing to do with the current war and stuff. I came across this kind of like what at that time I didn't understand what it was, but today I know to name a Latmiya or a Noah. It's like a religious chant talking about the events of that happened to Ali and Hussein. And it's like a I think uniquely like Shia Persian thing. Persian or Azeri. I've heard some Azeris also do that. So, but it's very much like a uniquely Shia religious kind of ceremony or event. And I connected that to, for me, it like started with the song, and I eventually connected it to the Millian Dialogues and where we did a reading from. But recently, with like this, what they're calling the Ramadan war happening, the Shia music is everywhere. Like all my friends, everybody's playing it. So they have like, everybody knows about them now, at least here in this kind of region in the Middle East. And the music is insanely good, insanely good. It's like truly, truly one of the heritages of I think, humanity. So if you want to check out my favorites, I created a playlist here called the Farsi chants, or the Latmiyas or the Noahs. And they have, I try to interleave them with like a more fast song and with a slower or more melodic song in between. And I think it might be interesting. It might open your perspective to at least the musical parts of the Shia. Okay, with all that being said, let me just check to make sure. Yes, I think we're good. With all that being said, we're gonna start to do the reading. Okay, the first believer. Friends and kinsmen, said Muhammad to the assembly, I offer you, and I alone can offer, the most precious of gifts, the treasures of this world and of the world to come. God has commanded me to call you to his service. Who among you will support my burden? Who among you will be my companion and my vizier? So this is the Prophet Muhammad calling out for a vizier, a supporter, a right-hand man, as he's bringing his message to the people. No answer was returned, till the silence of astonishment and doubt and contempt was at length broken by the impatient courage of Ali, a youth in the 14th year of his age. So I think by this time, by the way, when Prophet Muhammad is like bringing his message to the people, he's about 40 years old. So this is like a big gap. I mean, it's like a young, very young, what today we would call child. Probably in Arabia, it's like a young man, they would say, 14-year-old Ali. He is volunteering to be the vizier to Prophet Muhammad. O Prophet, I am the man. Whosoever rises against thee, I will dash out his teeth, tear out his eyes, break his legs, rip up his belly. O Prophet, I will be thy vizier over them. Muhammad accepted his offer with transport, and Abu Talib was ironically exhorted to respect the superior dignity of his son. Abu Talib is the father of Ali. So, with transport means, in older English, overwhelming emotion, rapture, joy, ecstatic excitement. And exhorted means strongly encouraged, to urge someone or to do something. So basically, Muhammad accepted it, Prophet Muhammad accepted it with great emotion, with great happiness. And Ali's father, now that Ali is the vizier, the right-hand man to Prophet Muhammad, has to pay respect to his own son. So interesting situation there. New chapter here, Ali as the Prophet's brother. So as I mentioned, like these are various excerpts, so this is like one perspective on Ali. To eradicate the seeds of jealousy, Muhammad judiciously coupled his principal followers with the rights and obligations of brethren. Right, so Muhammad is like making sure, just because he has a right-hand man, there's no jealousies going on. He's saying them. One of the things you have to do, as Muslims, is be brethren, right? So you have the rights and obligations of brethren. And when Ali found himself without a peer, so people are still jealous, even though Prophet Muhammad is saying you have to be brothers to each other. When Ali found himself without a peer, the Prophet tenderly declared that he would be the companion and brother of the noble youth. Just want to check, that the mic is properly coming across. Okay, the expedient was crowned with success. The holy fraternity was respected in peace and war, and the two parties vied with each other in a generous emulation of courage and fidelity. So this is an old way of saying, but like the expedient was crowned with success basically means the strategy worked perfectly. Like the strategy, what is the strategy? The strategy of declaring Ali to be the companion and brother of Prophet Muhammad. So this kind of like partnership was really sealed. It was respected everywhere, and they tried to one-up each other in terms of courage and fidelity. Like this is a beautiful bond that was emerging. Ali the warrior. In this case, using AI, it took two different passages about two different battles. So I personally added a little bit information about the battle. So this stuff does not exist in Gibbon. But this paragraph is talking about the Battle of the Trench, which happened in the year 627. A coalition of Meccan, Quraysh, and allied tribes marched on Medina to destroy the Muslim community led by Muhammad. Muhammad avoided a pitched battle and adopted a defensive strategy. A trench was dug around Medina, something unusual in Arabian warfare. So that is the Battle of the Trench. So let's now read what Gibbon is saying. The prudence of Muhammad declined a general engagement. So he didn't do an all-out war. I'm like messing with my mic today. Okay, so he didn't do an all-out war. He instead did a basically trench warfare, trench defense. The valor of Ali was signalized in single combat, and the war was protracted 20 days till the final separation of the Confederates. There's one thing, so during the siege, a famous champion from the attacking side crossed the trench and challenged the Muslims. And Ali, this is the single combat that Gibbon is talking about. Ali ibn Ali Talib, ibn means son of, so Ali the son of Abi Talib, fought him in a single combat and killed him. So that is why Ali was valorized. So Ali is a great warrior, basically. Now, the Battle of Haybar, which happened 1 year later, Muslim forces attacked the fortified oasis of Haybar. The defenders were Jewish tribes, and that's why Gibbon is referring to them as Hebrews. Traditions say Ali killed the champion, Marhab, and that a legendary story claims he tore off a fortress gate and used it as a shield. So that's the legend that Gibbon is going to refer to here. The apostle revived their faith and courage by the example of Ali, the apostle being Prophet Muhammad, on whom he, so the Prophet Muhammad, bestowed the surname of the Lion of God. So in the news, you might see Iranians constantly chant Haidar, Haidar. Haidar means lion, lion of God. Perhaps we may believe that a Hebrew champion of gigantic stature. So now Gibbons is obviously doubting the legendary stories a little bit. So he's saying, perhaps we might believe, that the opposing person, a Hebrew champion of gigantic stature, so a giant Hebrew man, was cloven to the chest, which means split open, down to the chest, cut deeply by a weapon, by his irresistible cymeter, so his being Ali's, and cymeter means an older spelling of a scimitar, a curved Middle Eastern sword. But we cannot praise the modesty of romance, which represents him as tearing from its hinges the gate of a fortress and wielding the ponderous buckler, meaning the heavy shield. Buckler is a shield. So wielding the ponderous buckler in his left hand. Like Gibbons is basically saying this is stretching credulity a little bit, but this is the legend of Ali at the time, at the Battle of Khaybar. The Prophet and Persia is another excerpt where this is actually not that relevant to the story, but it is interesting about the faith of the Muslims at the time. I have seen, said a deputy of Mecca, the Khosrows of Persia and the Caesar of Rome, but never did I behold a king among his subjects like Muhammad among his companions. The devout fervor of enthusiasm acts with more energy and truth than the cold and formal servility of courts. So here's a deputy of Mecca, the city of Mecca, basically commenting I've seen the greatest rulers of Persia and Rome, and they don't compare in terms of their subjects' fidelity to Muhammad. So very interesting. The Khosrows of Persia are referring to the two kings named Khosrow. One of them was a major reformer and powerful ruler of Persia, and Khosrow II expanded the Persian Empire dramatically. So both Khosrows, by all accounts, very accomplished rulers, and the deputy of Mecca is saying the devotion of the subject of those great leaders does not compare to the way the Prophet Muhammad is, or the deputy of Mecca at this time would probably say just Muhammad is able to gather the people around him and elicit loyalty from his subjects. Fatima, the best beloved daughter. So now this is the Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad from, I believe, Khadija, his first wife. In the largest indulgence, we're going to actually read it, so yes. In the largest indulgence of polygamy, the founder of a religion and empire might aspire to multiply the chances of a numerous posterity and a lineal succession. The hopes of Muhammad were fatally disappointed. The 4 sons of Khadija died in their infancy. Khadija had likewise given him 4 daughters, who were married to the most faithful of his disciples. The 3 eldest died before their father, but Fatima, who possessed his confidence and love, became the wife of her cousin Ali and the mother of an illustrious progeny. The merit and misfortunes of Ali and his descendants will lead me to anticipate in this place the series of the Saracen caliphs, a title which describes the commanders of the faithful as the vicars and successors of the apostle of God. So one of the things that I kind of was not aware is that Prophet Muhammad's only line of succession goes through his daughter Fatima. Like he had multiple other children and stuff, but they, you know, as you can see, were not able to continue their line of descent. So it's only from Fatima and Ali that we have all of the descendants of the Prophet Muhammad, which today in the Middle East, this is like another research that I did, is estimated to be around 16 million. 16 million, with about 6 million in Iran alone. So very, very interesting. I kind of like cannot even wrap my head around that a little bit. Like one needs to sort of calculate like how many generations, how many kids per like generation are we talking about per family, like on average. Very, very fascinating that like 1500 years ago, one line basically with two children, so Fatima and Ali had two children, all of their descendants can be like millions today. So interesting. The part where at the bottom Gibbons is talking about merit and misfortunes of Ali will lead me to anticipate. So this is just like, because it's a direct excerpt, he's talking about I will not chronologically talk about the rulers, and I will instead anticipate, meaning like I will talk about the different Saracen caliphs right now. So caliph is a title, I'm sure you must have heard of it, a title which describes the commanders of the faithful. These are like interchangeably used throughout the text, but basically like the head Muslim guy. We do not have a caliph in the world today. Like there's nobody, I think that the millions and billions of Muslims, not a single guy that like they have some sort of allegiance to. So this is very much a deprecated title. Now, the series of Saracen caliphs, this is good for us to keep in mind for what's going to come up, are the rulers of the early Muslim community. So Saracen was the medieval, early modern European term for Muslims or Arabs. The first four rulers after Muhammad are called the Rashidun caliphs. Interesting. They were Abu Bakr, the first one was Abu Bakr, close companion of Muhammad. Umar ibn al-Khattab, so Umar, the son of al-Khattab, a companion. Uthman ibn Affan, Uthman, the son of Affan, another companion. And then the fourth one is Ali ibn Ali Talib, which happens to be the son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad, so Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law. And after Ali, the caliphate passed to the ruling families not descended from Muhammad, such as the Umayyad Caliphate and the Abbasid Caliphate. Okay? Let's just keep that in mind. So after Prophet Muhammad died, three other people took the throne, basically, of the Muslims that were not related to him, that were his companions but were not related to him. So there's that. The character of Ali, the birth, the alliance, the character of Ali, which exalted him above the rest of his countrymen, might justify his claim to the vacant throne of Arabia. I want to take a step back. Like, obviously, we're doing all of this reading, but the point of it is like this history is very much living large, looms large in the imagination of Iranians today. Iranians and probably like their allies today, the Shia Muslims that we're talking about. So that's why to me it was interesting. Like it might seem like we're kind of talking about the minutiae of events that happened 1500 years ago. Listen, we haven't gotten to the good stuff yet. Like it turns out that the early Islamic history is, it's a soap opera. It's like super interesting, super, filled with like battles and people betraying each other and whatever. This is the good stuff is about to come. The good stuff in terms of, exciting stuff, let's say. It's not good. But all of this reading was it's just so interesting. I remember vaguely learning about the Shia a long time ago, like I'm talking like 20 years ago or something. And when I first heard about them, I kind of got a one-liner about them. I never understood all these like schisms and stuff. It seems to me like schisms, whether it's like Christian, whether it's Muslim or any other type, they're never explained by their like outward explanation. So meaning like it was pointed out to me that Ali's throne was basically usurped. Who's Ali? Okay, Ali is like some ruler. And then I just had to like think, 1400 years ago, the throne was usurped from, let's even accept all of the claims, right? Let's accept all the claims. So the throne was usurped from a rightful heir 1400 years ago from a, the empire no longer exists. The people no longer exist. I mean, the people, sort of their descendants exist, but there's no rights being demanded based on this. Again, like the empire doesn't exist. So why is this such a big deal? Like, why did this cause a 1,000-year schism in Islam? I could never understand it. It felt to me like, at the time I completely dismissed it because it felt to me like, imagine in the year 3000, there's like a schism among Americans, the Goreans and the Bushians, like whether or not Al Gore should have been the rightful president and was usurped by George Bush in the year, was it 2000 or whatever? Like, imagine that was like an actual schism 1,000 years later, right? You would think that's insane. And that's how insane it sounded. But I think doing this reading, like actually tracing through what the perspective of the Shia is going to give us like a sense of how and why this is so large in their imagination. So, by the way, the other thing I want to mention is the songs that I had mentioned, the Farsi chants, Latmiyas, Noahs, etc. All of them, you will constantly hear the same names. You will hear Hussein, you will hear Ali, you will hear Zainab, you will hear all these people because like they're all talking about this usurpation. All of them are about this usurpation of the throne. That's like the big distinguishing event. So incredibly fascinating. So, the character of Ali. Now let's go back to the character of Ali. The birth, the alliance, the character of Ali, which exalted him above the rest of his countrymen, might justify his claim to the vacant throne of Arabia. So, at this point in time, it's vacant because Prophet Muhammad has passed away. Because these are like taken from different passages. I have to like verbally fill you in. So this is the point in time where Prophet Muhammad has passed away. And we are, we're talking about like the succession. And because of our, because of the way we had looked at the annotation here, we obviously know it's not going to be Ali, but we're like living history forward now. So Prophet Muhammad has passed away. Now we're talking like who's going to be the successor. So there's a vacant throne of Arabia. The son of Abu Talib, so Ali, was in his own right the chief of the family of Hashem and the hereditary prince or guardian of the city and temple of Mecca. The light of prophecy was extinct, so meaning like he's not a prophet, but the husband of Fatima, so emphasized here as husband of Fatima because Fatima is the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, might expect the inheritance and blessing of her father. The Arabs had sometimes been patient of a female reign. So interesting phrasing here. Arabs, like it would be Ali ruling, but they would consider it a female reign because his legitimacy comes through the mother, which is, through his wife, which is Prophet Muhammad's daughter. So the light of prophecy was extinct, but the husband of Fatima might expect the inheritance and blessing of her father. The Arabs had sometimes been patient of a female reign, And the two grandsons of the Prophet had often been fondled in his lap and shown in his pulpit as the hope of his age and the chief of the youth of paradise. So Ali and Fatima had two children, Hassan and Hussein. So those are the two grandsons. And the Prophet Muhammad had obviously shown them as like his successors to his community. And therefore Ali was hoping, or people were hoping, that Ali had some legitimacy being the son of these, being the father of these grandsons and the husband of Fatima. The first of the true believers might aspire to march before them in this world and in the next. And if some were of a graver and more rigid cast, the zeal and virtue of Ali were never outstripped by any recent proselyte. So basically, Ali's zeal and virtue is top among all of the converts, recent or old. So he's very much ideologically continuing the same direction as Prophet Muhammad. He united the qualifications of a poet, a soldier, and a saint. His wisdom still breathes in a collection of moral and religious sayings, and every antagonist in the combats of the tongue or of the sword was subdued by his eloquence and valor. From the first hour of his mission to the last rites of his funeral, the apostle being Prophet Muhammad, was never forsaken by a generous friend whom he delighted to name his brother, his vicegerent, and the faithful Aaron of a second Moses. So here the passage is talking about how Prophet Muhammad is seeing Ali. He's seeing it as his vicegerent, which means a deputy or representative of someone who acts in the place of another, so in the place of Prophet Muhammad, and the faithful Aaron of a second Moses. So Moses led the Israelites, and Aaron was his loyal assistant and spokesman. So they're kind of repeating the pattern in history of being number one and number two. The son of Abu Talib was afterwards reproached for neglecting to secure his interests by a solemn declaration of his right. So after Prophet Muhammad has passed away, there's like a vacancy, and he is reproached later for not asserting himself in that vacant period, saying, I was basically declared the brother of Prophet Muhammad, I should be the next successor. He did not insist on this, which would have silenced all competition and sealed his succession by the decrees of heaven. Nobody could have opposed him if he did that, but he didn't. But the unsuspecting hero confided in himself, so he trusted himself. He trusted his merit would be obvious to everyone. The jealousy of empire and perhaps the fear of opposition might suspend the resolutions of Muhammad, and the bed of sickness was besieged by the artful Aisha, the daughter of Abu Bakr and the enemy of Ali. So Aisha is one of the wives of the Prophet Muhammad, and Abu Bakr is the one who ended up getting the throne in the end, right? So you can see there's like another line, another kind of another family trying to become the succession. And so this is very interesting. This was interesting for me to see because there's like it rang a bell from years ago. There was something about like the Shia Muslims not liking Aisha or vice versa or something like that. So I think this is what it can be traced to. It sounds like Abu Bakr, who got the throne, so in the eyes of the Shia, the throne was usurped, did this through the influence of Abu Bakr's daughter and Prophet Muhammad's wife, Aisha, and the enemy of Ali. So the usurpation of Ali's right, the silence and death of the Prophet. So silence because he did not name his successor, so he died. Silence and death of the Prophet restored the liberty of the people, meaning now it's unclear who's going to be the next person. Ali is not asserting it, so there has to be some sort of process. So the liberty to the people, the people have to decide, the elders, the community somehow has to decide who the next person will be. The silence and death of the Prophet restored the liberty of the people, and his companions convened an assembly to deliberate on the choice of his successor. The hereditary claim and lofty spirit of Ali were offensive to an aristocracy of elders. I mean, is this not like an age-old story? Let me read that again. The hereditary claim and lofty spirit of Ali were offensive to an aristocracy of elders. Desirous of bestowing and resuming the scepter by a free and frequent election, the Quraysh could never be reconciled to the proud preeminence of the line of Hashem. So this is also like ringing a bell, like the famous, Qurayshis having problems with the line of the Prophet Muhammad. So that's apparently like I'm assuming the Abu Bakr and his line are Qurayshis. Fascinating. Fascinating that they are, like, despite the fact that they're all now Muslims and they all feel allegiance to the Prophet Muhammad, they're not so sure about his descendants. Like, it's almost like they're saying, I pledge allegiance to you, like the Prophet. I didn't say anything about the descendants, Interesting. Scepter is this, you probably know it, but like it's this thing, it's the symbol of royal power or rule, literally a ceremonial staff held by kings, but often used figuratively to mean authority or sovereignty, right? So, sorry, I'm getting like interrupted with text occasionally. Okay. Desirous of bestowing and resuming the scepter by a free and frequent election. So they are no longer interested in pledging allegiance to the descendants of Prophet Muhammad. They want to hold elections. And the Quraysh tribe does not want to be subservient to the line of Hashem. The Hashemites alone declined the oath of fidelity. So at this time, so after this free and fair election, the person that is chosen is Abu Bakr, the father of Aisha. And the Hashemites, who obviously think that the person the selection should have gone to Ali, they alone declined the oath of fidelity, and their chief being Ali, in his own house maintained above 6 months a sullen and independent reserve without listening to the threats of Omar. Omar is the second guy the guy who ended up being, if we see here, Omar is this guy, Omar ibn al-Khattab. So Abu Bakr and Ibn al-Khattab, like Abu Bakr is the first one, the one who was just selected. And Ali is like not pledging fidelity to Abu Bakr, and Umar is threatening Ali to pledge allegiance. Abu Bakr and Umar, they're like close political allies. They were companions of the Prophet Muhammad. And then like there's some marriage thing going on. So Aisha was Abu Bakr's daughter, and later Umar married Abu Bakr's other daughter, Kulthum. So there's like they're close political allies, and then later allies by marriage. Without listening to the threats of Omar, Ali is just not pledging fidelity, who attempted to consume with fire the habitation of the daughter of the apostle. So that's like next level. Umar is threatening to burn the habitation, the house of Fatima, the wife of Ali. He's like threatening Fatima to get Ali to pledge allegiance to Abu Bakr. I mean, this is like truly Game of Thrones stuff. I mean, to be expected, in the 700 or 600 something in Arabia. But still, like, it's interesting. There's no, we're talking about like a new religion being born, a prophet, he just passed away. These are his progeny, but there does not seem to be a lot of respect or a lot of sensitivity given to the bloodline. Interesting. So Fatima died, now this is just my background to you, but Fatima died a few months, did I write it here? A few months after Prophet Muhammad. So that's just chronologically what happened. The death of Fatima and the decline of his party, so Ali's party, subdued the indignant spirit of Ali. He condescended to salute the commander of the faithful. So he ultimately agreed. He condescended to salute the commander of the faithful, so Abu Bakr, accepted his excuse of the necessity of preventing their common enemies, right? So this is like the way they found a way to save face by saying, like, we have common enemies, you know. It's better if you just focus on, if you unite against the enemies. And wisely rejected his courteous offer of abdicating the government of the Arabians. This is funny. So after all of these like threats and everything, Abu Bakr is like, out of, you know, just a saving face kind of ritual, saying, oh, Ali, like if you really wanted, I can abdicate the throne. But all of the political, you know, discussion has been done before, and Ali is like, no, you keep the throne. We have common enemies outside. So, you know, they go through this little ritual after the politics is settled of basically, in a face-saving way, having Ali pledge fidelity to Abu Bakr, the first successor of Prophet Muhammad, the first caliph. In the 12th year of his reign, Omar received a mortal wound from the hand of an assassin. Oh, so now we've skipped a little bit, okay? So we were with Abu Bakr. Let me fill you in. So Abu Bakr will reign for a while, and then he will die. But before dying, he will point to Omar, his political ally, the one that was threatening Fatima. That Omar, he will point to Omar as his successor. So now Omar will come to the throne. And in the 12th year of Omar's reign, he will receive a mortal wound from the hand of an assassin. He rejected with equal impartiality the names of his son and of Ali. So Omar is not pointing the next person. Omar refused to load his conscience with the sins of his successor. So Omar is not pointing to a successor, so he's just going to pass away, and the tribe is going to determine who is the next person again. And devolved on 6 of the most respectable companions the arduous task of electing a commander of the faithful. Right, so I think he like assembled 6 people and said, after I die, you guys pick the next guy. On this occasion, Ali was again blamed by his friends for submitting his right on the judgment of men, for recognizing their jurisdiction by accepting a place among the 6 electors. So again, like the people on the side of Ali are like, you should have stepped up to the throne the minute Prophet Muhammad died. You didn't. Then we had Abu Bakr, we had Omar, and now you're again, like Omar is not naming a second person, naming his successor. He's instead like wants to do this 6-person election thing, and you are refusing to step up, and you're just saying, okay, I will be one of the 6 to be elected, to decide in the elections. So the allies of Ali are pretty frustrated at this point. On this occasion, Ali was again blamed by his friends for submitting his right to the judgment of men, for recognizing their jurisdiction by accepting a place among the 6 electors. He might have obtained their suffrage had he deigned to promise a strict and servile conformity, not only to the Quran and tradition, but likewise to the determinations of the 2 seniors. This is very interesting. So Ali, as we now know, like looking back historically, will not be the 3rd caliph, right? But here Gibbons is saying it's either his own commentary or like the overall consensus of the Islamic kind of scholars commentary, that Ali might have become actually the 3rd caliph. He might have been selected between the 6, if only he had promised that he will be strictly servile, promise strict and servile conformity, not just to the Quran and traditions, but also the determinations of the 2 seniors, of Abu Bakr and Omar. Like if he had said, I will be a caliph, but I will not do anything drastic, I will just reaffirm everything that's been decided by Abu Bakr and Omar before me, he might have had a good shot of being selected. But he wouldn't make that kind of promise. So people thought he was too much of a risk. He might really switch things up. So they did not vote for him. They instead voted for Uthman. With these limitations, Uthman, the secretary of Muhammad, accepted the government, nor was it till after the third caliph, 24 years after the death of Prophet, that Ali was invested by the popular choice with the regal and sacerdotal office. So Ali became caliph in 656, and he was about 55, 56 years old when he became caliph. Sacerdotal, I think it's sacerdotal. Yeah, I actually looked this up. So I want to say sacerdotal, but it's actually sacerdotal. Means relating to priests or priestly authority. So he finally got the kingly and priestly authority. Ali is the fourth caliph at this time. The manners of the Arabians retained their primitive simplicity, and the son of Abu Talib despised the pomp and vanity of this world. So this thing keeps coming up. This the Ali and the line of Ali and the imams and stuff, basically kind of being monastic in a way, in the sense that they are not invested too much in the pomp, in the luxuries of the world. This is a theme that keeps coming up and up. So they retained their, so Arabians, this is obviously in contrast to Arabians. I say obviously because, if you know anything about the Arabians, they are not, frugal and kind of minimalistic people at all. So there's a big clash of kind of perspectives here. At the hour of prayer, he repaired to the Marsh of Medina. Marsh means mosque. Old European spelling of mosque. It's just always very funny. Marsh of Medina, clothed in a thin cotton gown, a coarse turban on his head, his slippers in one hand and his bow in the other instead of a walking staff. So he is a minimalist, monastic, hermit type of guy in his ordinary affairs. This was fascinating to me. So this schism, Persians and Turks, the mischiefs that flow from obviously, by the way, up to this point, there's no Shia or Sunni or Persian, Turk kind of big schism. It's going to happen now, later. The mischiefs that flow from the contests of ambition are usually confined to the times and countries in which they have been agitated. But the religious discord of the friends and enemies of Ali has been renewed in every age of the Hegira and is still maintained in the immortal hatred of the Persians and Turks. It's so fascinating. So, age of the Hegira means, Hegira or Hijra refers to the migration of Muhammad from Mecca to Medina in 622. And age of Hegira means every century or era from that year onwards, right? So we're talking, so Gibbons is very much making the same observation that I initially had when I first learned about the Shia and stuff. Whereas the mischiefs that flow from the contest of ambition, this Game of Thrones battles and stuff, they're usually confined to the times and countries in which they have been agitated, right? There's nobody, there's no recognizable political entity today that is deeply upset about Caesar getting the throne from whoever. These things are, hundreds of years ago, and these are not active and alive in our imaginations today. They're just historical, readings. Except friends and enemies of Ali has been renewed in every age of the Hegira. So every century after 622 and thereafter, this whole which side are you with regards to Ali is an active and alive thing in the Muslim world, and is maintained in the kind of, if you want to do a split between two peoples, The Turks are on the side of like the regular succession, also called Sunni. And the Persians are the Shias. Those are the ones that are saying Ali's throne has been usurped, and they're kind of the ones that are keeping this this split alive. It's so interesting. The former, so the Persians, who are branded with the appellation of Shiites. So appellation means name, label, or title by which someone's called. So the former, the Persians, who are branded Shiites or sectaries, have enriched the Mohammedan creed with a new article of faith. And if the Muhammad be the apostle, his companion Ali is the vicar of God. So I'm not too sure if like Shias would agree that like we have enriched the Mohammedan creed with like another, little byline. I don't think they would accept that. But this is Gibbons' observation that like for all intents and purposes, if Prophet Muhammad is the prophet, the apostle, then Ali is the vicar of God. Like Ali being the vicar of God is part of the split. It's kind of like when I first read about the Nicene Creed, talking about the split, from my understanding, I'm not a Christian, so I might be wrong, but I think that it's talking about the schism between the Catholics and the Eastern Orthodox kind of Christianity. And like if you read the Nicene Creed and like what the big deal was, is like, is Jesus, or like the events that happened in the year 0, like is it the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, or like was the Son there or not? Like it feels like when you read it, it's some minutia. It's crazy that like it would cause a split that lasts for centuries. This is kind of like that. Like it's crazy that a throne succession battle in the year 600 causes a 1,000-year split, schism. But there are examples of that. Like Christianity has had many such splits too. So I still do maintain like the schisms are partially about what they claim to be about, and partially just very different characters of people that just need to have a different set of beliefs to distinguish themselves from the other. I kind of think it's both. In their private converse, in their public worship, they being the Shiites, the Persians, execrate, so feel or express great loathing for. This is very true. If you look at the music, you're going to see that. They bitterly execrate the 3 usurpers who intercepted his indefeasible, his being Ali's, indefeasible, meaning not subject to being lost, annulled, or overturned, indefeasible right to the dignity of Imam and Caliph, and the name of Omar expresses in their tongue, this I did not know, the name of Omar expresses in their tongue the perfect accomplishment of wickedness and impiety. Fascinating. So from like the Shia perspective, Abu Bakr, Omar, and Uthman are kind of like usurper names. Fascinating. And Omar especially, I think because like he threatened the daughter of the Prophet. The Sunnites, so these are the Sunni Muslims, we would call them Sunni Muslims today. So and I think kind of referring here to the Turks as well, who are supported by the general consent and orthodox traditions of the Muslims, entertain a more impartial or at least more decent opinion. So Gibbons, you can tell, like he's not very much on the, he's not humoring the Shia so much. So he's saying they are supported by the more general consent and orthodox tradition of the Muslims, which is kind of true. Something that I read kind of told me that Sunnis are about 90% of Muslims in the world today. Even if it's not 90, it's like the super majority for sure. They entertain a more impartial or at least a more decent opinion. They respect the memory of Abu Bakr, the first one, Omar, second one, Uthman, third, and Ali, the fourth, the holy and legitimate successors of the Prophet. But this is interesting. So the Sunnis, they assign the last and most humble place to the husband of Fatima in the persuasion that the order of succession was determined by the decrees of sanctity. So they all, like, Ali is recognized as one of the caliphs by Sunnis as well. But the thing is, the Shia perspective is Ali was usurped by these three caliphs that were not supposed to be there, not supposed to take the throne. So he was usurped 3 times until he could reach the throne. But the Sunnis perspective is like, Ali is one of the 4 caliphs, but he's kind of the most humble in terms of the sanctity, because they think that the order of succession reflects the decrees of sanctity. So they believe that the sequence of leaders reflects their holiness or virtue. So in some sense, they do think of Abu Bakr as like the most virtuous among the 4, Omar the second most virtuous, Uthman the third most virtuous, and Ali the 4th most virtuous. Like, they're all virtuous, but there's no kind of like usurpation going on, is, I think, the perspective of the Orthodox tradition of Muslims. An historian who balances the 4 caliphs with a hand unshaken by superstition will calmly pronounce that their manners were alike pure and exemplary, that their zeal was fervent and probably sincere, and that in the midst of riches and power, their lives were devoted to the practice of moral and religious duties. So Gibbon, again, like inserting himself from the perspective of a British historian from the 17th century, I think he's like, he doesn't want to be called out for it, so he's not quite saying this is my opinion, but he's saying a historian who balances the 4 caliphs with a hand unshaken by superstition, so a very dispassionate historian looking at these 4 caliphs, kind of like Gibbons might be, is saying, they probably all meant well. Their practice and zeal was sincere, regardless of the political squabbles, like the way they enacted their faith, the moral and religious duties, the way they accomplished their moral and religious duties was very devoted in their lives. So this like usurpation story is humored little by Gibbons. The reign of Ali, a life. My voice is like really going away. Okay. Let me check. I might just call it here, and we'll take it up with the reign of Ali. I mean, I consider like all of this to be like part 1, because there's a lot of like interesting things coming up in terms of the power struggles after Ali. But let's do that in a separate video because my voice is kind of going away. So thank you very much for joining me for this reading of some excerpts to understand Persia a little bit better via the text of Edward Gibbon, chapter 50, about the fall in the East and the perspective of the Muslims of the time. Thank you very much. Bye.